Hello and a very warm welcome to a brand new edition of To The Point with me, Frank Pereira, on Rajya Sabha television. About a year and a half ago, Prime Minister Narendra Modi decided that he needed a new defense minister, someone who can take up the challenges that were thrown to him. And it was decided to bring in an import from Goa to Delhi to run the ministry, and I have that man with me today. It's my pleasure to welcome on the program Mr. Manohar Parrikar. Sir, thank you so much for joining us. Firstly, congratulations are in order because the BJP has done extremely well in the assembly elections that were concluded recently. So, your reaction and your thoughts on the BJP's brilliant performance?
Actually, it's a outcome of what we are doing for the last 2 years. I think people have started realizing that rather than rhetorics, actual ground performance is more important, and people are feeling the impact of the ground performance of Prime Minister's vision.
And you know, the BJP's agenda or the BJP's slogan over the last one and a half year has been Congress Mukt Bharat. Is that something that you are achieving?
I think that is now become a people's agenda, and people are fed up with the old style of politics and corruption which came out of the earlier regimes. So they are trying to find out new governments and new setups.
Your personal opinion, is it the end of the road for the Congress, or is it too early to write the Congress's obituary?
I will say the road before us is like a good national highway constructed by Nitin Gadkari.
Okay.
What potholes others are going through is their lookout.
Okay.
I will not like to comment on that.
Okay, sure. So let's move on now and talk about the NDA and the BJP in particular. And the BJP is going to complete 2 years in office very soon, in just a few days. What would you say are the BJP-led NDA government's biggest achievements over the last 2 years?
There are many. If I start listing the full program, we'll get covered.
Let's list the top three.
I'll put it like is financial inclusion of common men through various mechanisms like direct cash transfer, which is very effectively done in many schemes whereby the middleman is totally removed. Everyone now has a bank account through Jan Dhan Yojana. The insurance which is given to the common man, the gas subsidy direct transfer, as well as the new scheme under which money is direct, the gas connection is given to poor through those which have been let off by voluntary through a Prime Minister's initiative. People have many gas connection released.
I'm one of them.
From the, I found I didn't have a proper gas connection at all.
Indeed. So what would you say are the biggest challenges for the government? What have been the challenges thus far?
Challenges was to change the mindset of people. A development agenda and agenda which has a long-term goal sometimes does not deliver immediately. The immediate deliveries are freebies, which are normally declared, which gives you a feeling of comfort immediately, but does not deliver on long term. Some of the tough measures taken, but they deliver in long term, I think on many fronts has paid off and has started paying off.
So are you against freebies then?
Not always. Freebies, yes, but supporting the vulnerable section of the society is definitely also on cards, and this government has done that. Like for example, the second aspect which I will list as the most important is farmer support to the farmers. The single insurance scheme, which has been brainchild of Prime Minister himself, who took interest in it at the drafting stage itself, ensures that farmer is covered fully, even covered for a crop which has been cut down and kept for transportation. If it gets damaged, he gets full cover at a much lesser premium than the earlier scheme. So this is one single step where the empowerment of farmer is much more than anyone expected. The third, of course, is development agenda, whether it is delivery on power sector, coal sector or road sector. I think this government has delivered a lot.
Is that your core objective then? Do you believe that the development agenda is what's going to take the party forward?
Development agenda, this government includes human development also as a part of the development. We want to empower various sections of society. We want to make the youth capable of earning his own livelihood rather than make him dependent on the doles or support from the government. Of course, support for his endeavor will come. That is where the startup of the Prime Minister kicks in. Make in India ensures that employment is generation, because unless you increase the manufacturing capacity and contribution to the GDP, you can't expect to deliver the kind of employment or jobs which this country needs. But with that, you also require a skilled manpower. You also require a manpower which is empowered enough to work in this kind of atmosphere. Otherwise, it will be like starvation among plenty. So that is also taken care. So if you go into the all aspects, right from Swachh Bharat, which is one of the most important agenda according to me, because unless you have a clean India, you can't have better health parameters, you can't have better tourism. All these aspects depend on clean India. It may appear to be a very small agenda, but I consider it as a very important agenda.
Indeed.
And it has caught the imagination of people. A sustained effort should get the country out of this very dirty environment into a very clean Swachh Bharat concept. Takes some time, it doesn't happen
Indeed,
overnight.
it doesn't happen immediately. It will take some time, and laud the government's efforts in ensuring that a clean India is required. But let's move on now and talk about your role, and the role of the defense minister that you've donned over the last 1.5 years. You took over in November 2014. If you had to list your biggest achievement thus far, would you say that the biggest achievement is still yet to come, or has that already happened?
If I say that my biggest achievement has already come, then I would be one who would not grow. I believe that your achievements, any achievement, the bigger achievement is always still to come. Only if you have a target of a bigger achievement, then only you can improve your output. So from the biggest achievement, currently there are many. Improvement in the confidence amongst the armed forces, the OROP, change in mindset, that is one of the single most important aspect which I think I have managed to do amongst the armed forces, among the Ministry of Defence, and lot needs to be done. I am not saying the job is over. The mindset is totally changed, is not what I am claiming, but it's definitely started changing, and in this hot summer, it's more like a very cold breeze which sometimes you feel is required. But full change is yet to happen, it will happen.
Okay. And you spoke about the achievements, of course, and you said that you're striving to get something more in the near future, and you're always striving for better. But some of the challenges that you have met along the way, what would you list as some of these challenges that you've met over the last 1.5 years?
One, of course, I told you about the change in mindset.
Yes.
This department was under a sort of freeze, fear psychosis from earlier reputation of the department of being a scam oriented department, or department where deals happen, and everyone was paranoid about to act basically. The fear had resulted into a non-action. Fear had resulted into a sort of condition where you don't take any decision. I think I have achieved a lot in changing that mindset. Of course, some psychological impacts, the scar still remains, but I feel that any decision taken, if it is properly explained on the paper, there is no need of any fear. But this department had got into a freeze, and this department was not moving forward at all in taking decisions. Sometimes people feel that to protect their image, the best way is not to take any decision. But I feel that not taking decision is a crime. The person who takes decision obviously sometimes faces criticism, but if you can explain your decision properly, I don't think anyone will really, with his all seriousness, raise any objection to it.
Take a decision and stand by it is something that you're saying.
Take a judicious decision, a transparent decision, a decision without fear or favor, and then stand by it.
Indeed. You spoke about OROP as an achievement just a short while ago. There are certain sections among the veterans, of course, a small section, a sizable section of them who believe that, they're not very satisfied with what OROP is in its present stance. It doesn't look very good or appealing to them. So what is the issue, as in, are you dealing with it?
I'll put it in simple way. OROP was a 43 years old demand. Everyone all the time paid only lip service to OROP. They said we'll do it. One government kept 500 crores for it. Even my government, though had agreed prior to the election, thought that the cost based on Koshari committee is around 1000 or 1500 crores.
Yes.
In reality, when I became minister and I started calculating in consultation with some veterans and my department, I realized the cost will be anywhere up to 8000 crores. If not 14,000 and 22,000 which were being speculated. And we stuck to it to a large extent because final outlay is around 7,500 crores, 7,400 and some 50 crores, somewhere around that.
Yes.
So it's a reasonable achievement to the extent of 95% of what was thought as a complete OROP's package. What is left out are difficulties based on administrative reasons and based on certain interpretation which few people try to make out. But for that we have already formed a one-man judicial committee which will go into that, and wherever if it thinks it's a correct claim, it can recommend to the government.
You spoke about Make in India a short while ago, and you spoke about how Make in India project is a pet project of the Prime Minister, and the defense industry and the defense sector also contributes and makes a big part of this Make in India. What's in the pipeline as far as Make in India and defense is concerned?
I'll tell you what is already being executed. One is 32 years old project of light combat aircraft, that is LCA,
yes,
or Tejas as it is called. We have managed to get it inducted into the Air Force. Already 2 aircrafts have been delivered. The third should be coming by June end, and the fourth should be coming by September. So with 4, we will form the squadron. The training, everything is being already underway, and by this September or maybe October, November, we should have a squadron of Tejas after 32 years efforts and not coming to conclusion. I think it's one single achievement where we are now going to manufacture 120 aircrafts to be supplied to the Air Force to replace the aging MiG-21.
yes,
And these are much better in performance than MiG-21. They are almost 4th generation, and they are quite capable to handle most of the fighters in the world in the close combat. They have their limitation because of the size, weight lifting capacity, but what does the purpose they are being inducted, they do it much more than adequately than the current existing structure. So this is one example of an direct induction.
yes,
The second example, after 1984, when the Bofors scandal broke, the Indian Army has not purchased a gun.
yes,
We have already inducted guns into the Indian Army called as Dhanusha, which is 155 by 45 caliber. The Bofors was 155 by 39 caliber. So the range of this Dhanusha is about 7-8 kilometers more than the Bofors original gun. And that is inducted, and it has already conducted hot trials, that is summer trial in the desert, very successfully. We are putting in 6 guns for actual field trials. By October, November, the winter trial should get over, and the Ordnance Factory Board is ready to manufacture in production basis these guns. They have indigenized most of the components. So this is one induction, homegrown induction, indigenous produce item, which is going in production very soon, and which is conducted already a successful trial. Self-propelled gun with a private industry, Larsen Toubro, is already approved through the field trials. The contract negotiation is almost over, I believe, and maybe in a few months now, this gun should also become a part of the Indian Corps Army. And even the light howitzer, which the decision was delayed for almost 8 years. It's a light version of the similar gun, which weighs only about 4.5 tons. That is also in the final stage. So you see from any perspective, and I can tell you dozens of this. For example, the Arjun Mark 1, which was manufactured and they were rotting there in the field because they were virtually not functional. We have made them functional by providing them the support required, because no vehicle or the tank will be able to perform unless you provide all the backup support, including our ammunition and including the maintenance part of it. We have now provided through series of joint meetings, we have slowly made more than 70% of the Arjun tanks operational, and we are going through the final minor problems, and I hope that they will be very much operational. Arjun Mark II is also being slightly modified to suit the Army's need, and we will manufacture them, and not only that, I hope these items we can export also.
Indeed, indeed. I mean,
Akash missile system has been inducted in the Air Force. It's operational. Its production capacity has been revamped. A lot of Make in India projects are already under production. Some are under final stage of being contracted.
You know, India is the second largest importer of arms. If we become an exporter of arms, it will be incredible.
I think at the end of tenure of this government, it will. This is one area where I will be very happy to lose the rank, and I am very sure we will definitely lose the rank.
Indeed, and hopefully I'll talk to you again in 3 years' time, and hopefully you'll tell me that India is at the 10th rank.
We have already reduced the imports by about 7%. The component of the import in the total procurement has already dropped 7%. This is in spite of fact that today's purchase is not what is ordered today. It is what is ordered 3 years back.
Indeed.
So what we order now will have, or what we approve now will have impact after 2, 3, 4 years as well.
Sure, certainly. Now you spoke about the LCA and you spoke about Tejas and how there are certain limitations as far as Tejas is concerned because of its lightweight. Now, as far as MMRCA is concerned, are we working on an aircraft? Are we planning to get something? And I want to know what's happening on the Rafale deal. Is that going forward? Is it still in a state of limbo?
5th generation aircraft, we are jointly developing it with the Russian government and their companies, and we are in the second phase now. It's almost finalized. I believe that by next month it should be signed, the second phase contract of design and development. The conceptual part and the first phase of only the drawings and other thing is already over. The second phase is going on. We expect this 5th generation to materialize in next 7 to 8 years. It's not a very small time period for top-end aircrafts because it has a lot to deliver. Meantime, the 4th generation, one is of course Tejas. The limitations I am saying is in terms of its capacity because it is light aircraft, so it can lift about 3.5 tons. But its potential in firing beyond visual missile have been already approved. We have already fired Derby and other beyond visual missiles from this aircraft. It is integrated already, and I am sure that it is quite potent. That's why I said it's potent in the area of its replacement. That means MiG-21, which it's going to replace, this is much better, maybe twice more effective or 3 times more effective than the
I'll make an analogy probably which will put it in better perspective. You can't let a lightweight fighter fight with a heavyweight fighter, and that's probably... You can in a defensive role, you can, but if you fight over your skies,
This is a very good aircraft, but it doesn't have a deep penetration capacity, which Rafale has.
Indeed.
And I expect Rafale deal to close very soon. We are at the last stages of negotiation. There are some minor points which needs to be thrashed out by the negotiating committee. Once they do, if there are some minor issues left, they will give the report maybe by the month end.
Okay.
After that, government can step in with the French government if something has to be tied up.
So as early as maybe next month we can see the agreement
I
come
hope
through?
so.
Okay.
I hope to do it by next month.
Talking about aircraft, I spoke to a retired air marshal a few days ago, and he was telling me in last 25 years, India's air squadron, combative aircrafts as far as air squadrons are concerned has come down considerably. We had 40 combat-ready squadrons
I don't
earlier.
think he is not correct.
Okay.
What he is talking about 42
Yes.
is the sanctioned squadrons.
Okay.
Sanctioned does not mean you can reach that figure all the time, but you have to form squadrons. So you need a space. That space of 42 has been approved, and we will try to strive it. But we have been hovering around 33, 34, 35.
Yes.
That is a figure which we have remained, because as the aircrafts age, they have to be taken out and new one inducted.
So there
That's
is
why
no concern
Tejas will
now then.
take. I will like to be better, but there is no concern that the strength will deplete, because Tejas will take care of certain things. There are at about 4 squadrons, 3 to 4 squadrons of Su to be inducted, with 2 Rafale squadrons to be inducted. I think the immediate 5 to 7 years need has been taken care. We have upgraded Jaguar, and we are considering strengthening the capability of we have upgraded Mirage, and Jaguar is being improved on its engine capacity.
Indeed. Let's move on now and talk about another aspect of your ministry that is extremely important, and keeping the borders safe and ensuring that infiltration does not take place from Pakistan. Now that is an issue that you have taken up very seriously, and that is an issue that you're extremely concerned about. In spite of that, we've seen several infiltration attempts from Pakistan's end. How do we cull that? How do we put an end to it?
There is one is the political initiatives which this government has attempted very seriously, but the political initiative does not stop me from offering a very strong countermeasures. One is strengthening the grid on the borders. We have done it very effectively. If you take up the figures of last 3-4 years, you will realize, number one, the army has a clear direction that if there is an infiltration attempt, don't hesitate, neutralize the terrorist whichever way. If they surrender, well and good, but if someone comes in attacking position with you, you don't have to be defensive. You have to be equally offensive as long as it is on the Indian soil. And army has been doing that. If you take the figure of security forces lost to terrorists neutralized, they were almost 1:1. Not very favorable, slightly favorable in terms of figure towards army, but almost equal. Now the figure has almost come down to 1:5, 1:6. And this year I believe, if I am not mistaken, because not taken the latest figure, it's something like in combat, in counter-terrorism operation, it's about 6 to 7 security forces. There are some other losses.
Yes.
Losses due to accident or losses due to Siachen glacier. I am not counting those. Only talking about the personnel killed in operation. It's almost 42, 6, 7 or maybe 8.
Indeed. Does China pose a threat, or do Pakistan and China pose a combined threat, and are we ready to tackle such a threat?
Chinese support to Pakistan has to be is a different aspect which we need to take into consideration seriously. But at the same time, I think building better relations with China definitely counts. I don't see any reason why I should not have a better continuous dialogue with Chinese side to ensure that the border tranquility remains. We have improved the number of border meeting points from 3 to 5. We may increase it to 6 or 7. There is a proposal for increasing further. That gives an opportunity where you can talk out things and don't create a problem for each other. We are also in the process of establishing a hotline, and I am very confident that the Chinese equation with India could only be towards better management of the border from both sides.